get us started here. I first wanted to thank all of you for being a part of our virtual event Learn and Link and joining this session, Navigating the Wonders of Special Events. My name is Casey, and I will be the moderator this evening, but I also wanted to give a minute for my teammates to introduce themselves. So you guys can go ahead.
And I'm Keisha Lewis.
I'm Taylor Francis Shelley.
And I'm Katie Kell.
And I'm Itzel Gonzalez, and then we also have Leanna. Unfortunately, she's having some computer problems, but she's here with us.
All right, guys, so before we jump in, I just wanted to go over a couple virtual guidelines. During the session, we ask that everyone keep their microphones on mute so we can hear our speaker. And once the speaker is over, we'll open it up to
unknown participant is now joining
Q&A. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can always just put them in the chat box. But in this webinar, you guys will be able to explore the world of special event production and hear how to navigate through these avenues from our industry expert. And joining us to share this expertise is Mr. Kamal Daraiseh. He's an award-winning event producer, president of Audiovisual One Group, and the executive producer of IMPRINT Group. Kamal has 25 years of special event production experience, and during this time, he's had the pleasure of working with the past 3 presidents, several dignitaries, and a handful of Fortune 100 companies. He's got invaluable knowledge and amazing experience to share with us, and I'm really excited for all of you to hear his presentation. So without further ado, I'll let you take it away, Kamal.
Awesome, thank you. It's a great introduction. I'm very humbled, actually, so thank you for that. And thank you all for being here. It's not often that I get to share some knowledge about my passion and what I do with students and people aspiring to be a part of this industry. Generally, I speak a lot and engage audiences that are already in this industry and have been working in it for a long time, and I provide some educational resources and such. So for me, this is a treat. And as I told Casey and the entire team, it's like, let's not make this a one-time thing. I really hope to engage with Metro State and even with each one of you. And I have my contact information on the back end of this presentation. Please feel free to take it down and sort of reach out to me, and happy to sort of kind of engage, in your aspirations of really becoming someone who's a thought leader in this industry in the future, which we hope we all are. So thank you for allowing me that. I think, Casey, we may have a couple of questions, poll questions. Do we want to do those now? Are we able to do those?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Let me get those started. I know, Taylor, are you in here? She was going to get those posted here.
And if not, no worries. We can always come back to them.
Yes, and they are actually posted in the chat.
You got them up?
Yep, they are ready to go. So if everybody could answer them, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, please take some time to really think about those answers. Really, those questions are made to sort of kind of make you think a bit about, there's 2 questions, and make you think about sort of strategy for your career, what direction you want to go in, and really what are those characteristics of an event producer, someone like myself, that really can set you up to success. And I know, Casey, I'm not able to see those answers, but I know you can. And if you can just sort of kind of let me know what the majority sort of, the number 1 answer is, I would love to know what that is, and sort of kind of get us in some conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. They are updating in live time right now. It looks like, so for the first question, what is the optimal career strategy in becoming an event producer? We've got 54% answering in work for an event company. We've got 18% that chose work for a supplier in the event industry, i.e. AV, design, decor, and entertainment. We have 18% that chose become a freelancer with different companies, so I can learn all about this specific traits. And then we have 9% that chose work for a DMC.
Got it. I'm going to guess that not everybody may or may not know what a DMC is, which may be sort of kind of why I got a little bit of the lower percentage, or perhaps I'm wrong and you all do, but there is no wrong answer on that list. But as something to think about, there's a lot of different avenues that you can go into becoming an event producer. And the biggest thing that you want to think about is understanding each and every moving part of an event. And there are so many, and the logistics really and the execution of a live event or a meeting or a conference takes on a lot of things that you as an event producer need to be a semi-expert at. And when I say semi, I mean you don't have to understand or be an expert at every discipline, but you have to understand all the moving parts to it. So in your career, you may work for 5 different companies, and those could all be everything from an event company, a DMC, to being a freelancer in the industry and so on. And those are all good strategies to sort of gain knowledge on all those different disciplines. So think about it from that perspective, and I will highlight a little bit more about that in the presentation. I think we had a second question as well.
Yeah. So the second question, what is the most important characteristic of an event producer? We have 15% that chose leadership. We have 38% that chose creativity. 7% chose confidence. 15% chose project management. And 23% chose versatility. I was kind of stuck between the creativity and confidence because I know, Kamal, we talked about you got to be confident in this industry,
yes,
but also the creative factor applies to it so much. So, yeah, I was torn between those ones a little bit myself.
I mean, those are all two goes. And let's be honest with one another. All 5 of those are really critical, and you know everybody can rate those in a different way. There truly isn't a wrong answer to that question. They're all right answers, maybe some more right than others for you. And you can then, you know, what I would like for everybody to do is really sort of put those in line with where you think you are now. You know, ask yourself about your leadership qualities. Are you creative? You know, do you exude confidence? You know, have you been a part of project management? Are you very good at it? And the same thing is really versatility and knowledge, which goes back to that first question. And once you rate all of those, you can then ask yourself where you want to improve. And sometimes that will help you sort of steer in the minutia of all the options you have for a career and sort of kind of building yourself to really sort of kind of put your arms around all 5 of those characteristics, which help you then when it comes to executing, you know, live events and so on. So I'll be curious, what was the number 1 answer, Casey?
The number 1 answer was creativity.
Very good, very good. A very important one. And I will say about creativity that if you don't have confidence behind your creativity, it could fall flat. And that's where confidence and creativity comes in. And I'll explain this in painting a picture for you as a real life example. You know, I sit across, you know, tables in boardroom meetings of top executives of Fortune 100 companies, and they're talking about their live conference, and they have a message that they want to deliver to their audience. And so when I have an idea, you know, and sometimes that idea sort of comes from some research, it also comes sometimes while sitting at that table, I need to have the confidence to share that creative idea, even though it may be really outside the box and you might risk them not liking it. But if I have confidence around it and I truly believe it'll work, they will then look at me as an event producer more as a consultant, where it's like, this guy is bringing experience to the table. He understands live events and how to deliver, you know, my content, my message to my audience. And so that confidence really can help support that creative. So think of it from that perspective. Good, that's a good one though. And they're all good. Notice the last one, versatility and event knowledge. That one goes back to the first question, that as an event producer, you have to understand everything from the production side of things to the design and decor, to the content, to the food and beverage, to the graphics, to the everything. And we'll talk through this, but there are so many moving parts and you really want to be able to understand all of that. So, and you get that from experience. And that's where, when you think about your strategy going into your career, how do you gain all that experience? And some people might like the production side of things more than anything else. And certainly you can ride that train, so to speak. But as an overall event producer, you have to know what the left hand says to the right hand and the fingers of this and so on. So everybody sees my presentation, is that right?
It looks like right now it's a screen of, at least on my end, of some participants. I don't see your presentation quite yet.
Do you see it now? right, let me do this.
Yeah, maybe exit out of it again and then join back in. There we go.
You got it?
Yep.
Perfect, perfect. So before I start, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box to write those questions. Casey's going to monitor those, and I'll be happy to answer those within the presentation and also afterwards when we can open up to a bit of Q&A. If you really have a compelling question to ask me during the middle of my presentation, I really don't mind if you want to unmute and just interrupt me. It's okay. You're not going to insult me in any way, because I want to engage this more as a conversation as well as me sort of presenting some things and so on. So with that being said,
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
So my chat box says only team members can chat. Ask the team owner to make you a member. Is anyone else getting that?
I am
Let
as
me
well.
look into that.
Yeah, I also am.
Let me look into that for you guys here.
I have a quick solution. If for now, if everybody real quickly wants to take down my mobile number, and you can text me your question for now if you'd like, and I'll be happy to keep an eye on my phone as I do this presentation.
And in addition, my email is on, I sent through most attendees an email this morning. I can also provide that for you guys and follow up through to there. In the meantime, I'll work on getting it adjusted on here as well.
Yeah, and if you want to take down my mobile number, it's 480-648-6688. Again, 480-648-6688. Feel free to text me, and I'll be happy to take a glance at my phone here during this, and any questions that are, I'll be happy to answer in either via text or live during this. So couple of quick slides to sort of kind of, set the stage here. Pardon the pun. What does an event producer do? Think of yourself as an artist, a creator, an influencer, a thought provoker, and a visionary. And I would bet to say if I asked each of you what does an event producer do, probably none of you would answer any of those to a certain extent. And I wouldn't have answered that either prior to me really engaging in this industry. But what I've come to realize in 25 years of doing events is that these are the things you really are, and people look at you to be these 5 things outside of being great in project management and great in leadership and so on. But at the end of the day, we are tasked with whoever our client is who has a vision of an event where they have a message they want to deliver to an audience, and they look to us to be that artist that takes the blank slate of the meeting space, creates it into something that's amazing, the ability to influence the audience, to really be someone that helps deliver the content that makes it very thought-provoking, and really overall being the visionary of the entire event, ensuring him and his team, or her and her team can really execute and produce the event. And again, I think this is all being recorded, right, Casey? So eventually everybody will get a copy of this, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. We're recording right now.
Awesome. Yeah, good stuff for you to know. So feel free to take screenshots or whatever, but yes, this is a good slide. How does an event producer think? So you have to think with confidence. You have to be able to push the envelope and be a bit of a risk taker. You always want to continue to educate yourself as this industry goes fast, and you always want to have a strong team behind you. I hope everybody got a chance to read a blog post that I wrote, Why Hire a Producer, that talks about some of these elements and such. And the biggest takeaway in that blog post was really, as an event producer, you have to have a strong team around you, and it's very critical. And through your career, you will meet people and you will connect and you will network. And those are all very critical to ensure that you build a strong team around you. I have some amazing people I work with, both here locally where I am and all across the country, and even that matter internationally where I've produced events. So it's always building that network. So I'm going to show you a quick video that sort of kind of gives you a bit of some stuff that I've done and produced, and then we'll maybe stop for some questions, if any. Oh, what happened there? There we go. Don't touch it. So thank you for giving me my 100-second shameless pitch to all of you. but that is a video that encompasses events that I have touched and produced on a lot of different levels. And the one thing that I want you to take away from that video is the experience that the audience had on everything that you saw. And that is probably the biggest thing that motivates me when I, do my job, perform my tasks, travel to different destinations and produce events. The one thing on my mind is, how do I make an impact on the audience that's relevant to the client, where there is some sort of measurable ROI, return on investment. And my clients look for that. And they look for me to have the ability to impact the audience and make them act or react to a certain way. And it's no different than you watching commercials on TV, or a Super Bowl halftime show for that matter, or apparently the Tiger King on Netflix these days. So it's all something that gives you some sort of emotional experience and a reaction to that. So in our world as event producers, and taking it really from the IMPRINT group side of things, is there the 5 disciplines of really conducting a meeting or a conference and the events that surround that. There's the destination management side of it. There's the creative, the production, the experiential, and the content. And I'm going to touch base on all 5 of those right now, sort of kind of give you some background. IMPRINT Group is a DMC. They're a destination management company based in Denver, Colorado, offices in Arizona, Florida, and Nevada. Clients reach out to us when they're bringing an event or a conference or a meeting into City of Denver, the state of Colorado. They look to us to be the experts at, the area. And so we can steer them in a lot of different directions so they can experience Denver or Colorado, the way that, everybody who lives there does, but these are all attendees coming from somewhere else. And so we have become the experts then really to plan and coordinate customized, events around the city or the state. As you can imagine, Denver is a very attractive place for people to come to, and there's a lot to do in the summer and the winter and so on. And so we pride ourselves on being very much experts in that. And when they say, hey, we've never been to the Rocky Mountains, what do we do? I'm taking 500 people to Denver, and we want to do a day trip, and we can provide them a multitude of options, whether it's, ski season or in the middle of the summer. And so we become that sort of the kind of destination experts. And a DMC is really involved in being that expert on that side. But along with the destination expertise comes the event expertise as well, where they'll look to us as a DMC to help produce their meeting, their conference, their event, and so on. So I encourage everybody to research what a DMC is. Go online, look at some of the DMCs in Colorado. It's a great place to start your career. And at IMPRINT Group, we have a program where we bring in interns, and we have them spend, depending on their schedule and curriculum and so on, months with us, really, where they can learn and touch each aspect of event and so on. Joe Reynolds, who is the person who connected me with Metro State, was an intern for us. And 2 years ago, he was hired on as a production assistant and coordinator. And he has slowly moved up, and now he's an entertainment producer. He's traveled with me a handful of times this year prior to COVID, and we produced events together, and he's amazing. And he has all those qualities that we talked about earlier. So it's a great place to start. So whether it's IMPRINT Group and you reach out to us, and please do, or it's any other DMC in Colorado, or for that matter, wherever you may live, that's a great place to start. Creative and branding design. So this, especially in this day and age, is something very critical when producing an event. Every event wants their logo, their brand to be on it. Think of it from, I referenced Super Bowl halftime shows. We know that companies spend millions of dollars on 30 seconds to put their logo and their brand in front of all those viewers. It's no different than when a client is producing a live meeting or event, and they want to make sure that their brand is in front of their customer at all times. And we as event producers help them design their space. So we, let's say they booked an event at a hotel or a conference center, and we need to have a spatial design plan to create a branded environment for them. So no matter where that attendee is, they are seeing the brand, they're touching it, they're feeling it, it's tangible, and that can be done in a lot of different ways. And things that you can learn as far as whether it's graphics related or it's on-screen content related, or in this day and age, we're doing a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality stuff where people can experience the brand in that way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Top right corner picture is Western Union. They launched their new building in Denver, and they wanted to put their logo on their building, and they wanted everybody that was driving down the highway to see it. And they reached out to us and said, "Can you just throw our logo on the building?" Sure. And so we threw their logo on the building. Amongst other things that we did for them, this was their final night party. That's their CEO. They're dancing. Hickman Ursick, good friend of mine. The bottom left picture is Yahoo's Revolution event. It was their sales conference kickoff. Bottom right is MAC Cosmetics and their glam show that they do every year that I'm a part of, and I get to work with a lot of people at that show. It's quite an amazing show, but imagine a cosmetic company and how important their brand is to everybody. So that is the second sort of discipline that you want to understand. There's the production side as well, which is what is most near and dear to me in the sense that this is what gets me excited more than anything. I'm a closet nerd in that sense. I'm very much a checked out kind of guy, but understanding the audiovisual production and how to create a stage design, how lighting impacts a show, special effects, what sort of canvas can I create for the client to deliver a message. A couple examples here. That top picture there of Betty Perez, 27-year-old phenom in the skincare industry for a company based in Scottsdale, Arizona, and this was their sales kickoff for 4,000 people, and people adore her. And I said, we have to bring you out in a bang, and it's not going to be the typical, sort of kind of walk out on stage type of a thing. And so, utilizing a beautiful stage that we created with some really cool special effects. And I've never seen a standing ovation longer than I've seen with hers. And it was quite amazing. But those are sort of those creative things that you bring to the table and say, you've got to do this. You drive that with confidence and they love it. that bottom picture is a fashion show that I do every year for Secret, where they actually, instead of bringing real models, I mean, and Tiffany's a wonderfully beautiful woman there in the picture, but she's not a model, but she's part of their environment, their team, and their sales team. And so we take, people that are not necessarily models, both men and women, and we walk them through the process of being a model and going up and down the runway, where we work with about 30 of their team members and had them become models for a day. And we did this amazing model, fashion show, really showcasing their products and stuff. But that was a sort of a spitball idea that came 11th hour at a round table and said, why don't you use your staff as models? And it was like, brilliant, Kamal, how do we do that? And I'm like, I'll figure it out. And that's what you do. And you end up putting it all together and you execute it. And to this day, and that show was probably about 4 years ago or so, that people are talking about it still to this day. Do you remember, can you imagine all the pictures they post and videos? And I remember 4 years ago, I was a model on stage and stuff. And I'm like, yes. So, and the other two pictures really, we do a lot of trade show work as well. So when a company like Lexus reaches out to us and says, how can we create a booth at an auto show that really highlights our vehicles? What does that design look like, and so on? And they reach out to us and we create a design. And I'll show you how we create renders and such here shortly to be able to execute, those types of things. So the production side is mission critical these days, because really that's the bells and whistles and the cool stuff. And if you get a chance to understand that, you're ahead of the game in my opinion. And that really was what sort of launched my career, was getting my arms around this piece. The experiential side of things. So you might ask yourself, what does that really mean? And so it really is events that create an experience. And I think I mentioned it earlier, but utilizing lighting and special effects and so on, so that when an audience goes into a room or a ballroom, it is not just static. Things are moving. Everything comes to life. Things become very tangible for them. And you do create an experience, and whether that's with entertainment, production elements, design, decor, etc., even gamification, AR and VR stuff, they are engaged in the event more so than just going in, having a seat and watching something that happens on stage. They truly become part of the event. So, and the last one is really the content management side of things. And this is also a bit of my wheelhouse, as well as, how to create, quality content that you can put up on that big screen or screens and really engage the audience. I've done a lot of research on the importance of content and how it works. The first 8 seconds are the most important. If you grab them in the first 8 seconds, you've got them for the rest of the video. If you don't, you're going to lose them. All those sort of things that I've sort of self-taught myself and leaned on industry professionals to learn and such. But being able to not just create the content, but visualize it, create it, storyboard it, script it, put the team together to do that is amazing. I'm working on a documentary right now. Yes, I'm an event producer. I do live events. Why is he working on a documentary? Well, there's no more live events right now, unfortunately. So I had to sort of switch gears and be like, how can I take my creative, my vision, my leadership, reach out to my clients and do things? And we launched a program for our customers to tell their COVID-19 story through a documentary. And I've got a handful of clients that said, yes, how do we do it? And of course I said, I'm going to figure it out. And we created this blueprint of how to, really help our clients, engage in capturing their footage of what's going on in their world as a company, how it's been directly impacted with COVID-19, and create a documentary. And I'm getting all this amazing footage, and I'll eventually, for each client, have their own story. And so when we get out of COVID-19, when we're hopefully in the near future, we're sort of post-pandemic time, they can celebrate with that documentary with, this is what it was like, this is what we did, this is how we got through it, and here's our bounce back story, so to speak. And I think it's great. And I challenge each and every one of you that are on this call as well. You should be documenting your own personal COVID-19 story. You would be remiss if you didn't do it, because I tell you, when this is all done, you're going to want to share that because people will be talking about it. And no doubt about it, we're living in a moment of history right now, and your children and your children's children will be talking about 2020 and COVID-19, unfortunately, but hopefully it'll be a happy ending. So any questions so far? I don't know, Casey, if you've gotten any or anything I can share.
We have. We're getting some great response to that last part too. It looks like the documentary. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people on here that want to watch it. I definitely do. There was a question from, let's see, the first one. Lauren wants to know, have you put on any virtual events since the start of the stay-at-home order? That's
a great question. I was ending with that, but I'm not going to end with it anymore because I'm glad. What's her name? Sorry, Lauren?
Lauren, yeah.
Lauren, I love the way you think because that's exactly what we're doing. By nature, large groups of people gathering is not a good thing these days. And as a company and as a producer, we've had multiple events cancel, if you can imagine. So we've had to switch gears. Live streaming and virtual events is nothing new to our industry. There's a handful of clients I work with and we stream their event because they have an international footprint and not everybody can come to a destination. So we stream it live and people watch it in different countries and so on. But nowadays we're taking that a step further. And so the short answer to your question is my first, real live stream virtual event is this Friday. And Casey, I'll be happy to send you the link. You can share it with everybody.
Love that.
We're producing a live stream for National Jewish Health, which their main hospital is in Denver, Colorado, but they have hospitals around the country, including in Manhattan and New York. So you can imagine the frontline folks that are dealing with COVID-19 and the response that they're doing and so on. And so we are helping them produce a live stream where the Lumineers, One Republic, handful of other artists are going to be performing. It's a fundraiser type stream, but they reached out to us and they said, hey, Kamal, hey, Adrian, how do we do this? Can we make this happen? And of course, yes, we can. And here's how you do it. And so, Lauren, it is the biggest thing that we are focused on right now because we can't focus on live events. And everything from live streaming to the virtual reality, augmented reality elements that are involved with that, to really connecting people in different parts of the world into one sort of format, more so than Microsoft Teams or Zoom could do, where you can include a lot of gamification elements and activation. And as we say, we want that person behind the monitor to have the same exact experience as if they were, in a ballroom, sitting in a chair, watching things happening and unravel on stage. So we are also working on cool creative content and even a new broadcast type TV platform for virtual meetings as well, which sort of then, makes everybody feel like they're a star or a talk show host and such, which is cool. And we've had some good traction with that. So it's a great question. So yes, the short answer is yes, we are. Again, you all have my number. I'll give you my contact information. If you want to know more, learn more, feel free to email or text me as well.
We do have a couple more questions. Do you want to save them for the Q&A or would you like to take up a couple more now?
I don't mind taking questions right now. The next 3 slides are about 3 different examples of certain shows and some cool videos. So it's a good time to pause.
All right. So Keisha asked, how many different people on your team depending on the event?
Keisha, good question. It really does vary, and I'm gonna pause and not answer that, and here's why. I'm gonna show you 3 different events in the next part of the presentation, and I will answer you, Keisha, in this presentation and kind of tell you how many people it took to really produce each one of those events. But I can tell you that, for example, BBYO, which is going to talk to first, it's a conference for north of 5,000 attendees, and it takes an army to do all those things, and I'll talk a bit more about that. Was there one more question, Casey?
One just came in that I think might be a little relevant to what you're just talking about. Lily asked, what software are you using to do that? Maybe in response to, controlling attendees, having people in the right places they're in, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that's what it was regarding to.
Got it. We have an internal software system that are proprietary to us that we use that really sort of kind of helps to manage the project per se, and a lot of the data information that we have and sort of accessible by the entire team. And then once it gets into sort of executing the actual event, where we're starting to get close to actually the date of the event, we're moving into sort of production schedules that are very sort of specific, shared on Google Docs with our entire team, perhaps with a client as well, that we're manipulating and talking through on a constant level. There's software programs we use for the renders and some of the visual stuff that I'll share with you shortly as well, that runs the gamut of things. And so, you know, production schedules, there's a lot of different softwares out there that can help that. And a lot of them are really based around sort of a spreadsheet format, and data entry, and you can find those. We still like to use Google Docs with our own spreadsheet format that we've created, that really sort of kind of is data entry input that breaks down every element of the show. And so there's multiple tabs for each element and what happens on each day and when and so on, and who's responsible, and such. And if anybody wants to see what that looks like, it's not in this presentation, but I'll happy to email you one if you'd like. So I'm going to talk a little bit about BBYO, and you don't have to read all that's up there. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. It's a teen conference for 5,000 Jewish teens from around the world. They gather every year to one destination. They really talk about things like education and sort of kind of leadership training and sort of community and networking, religious studies as well. And so it's a multitude of education portions of it, really sort of kind of voting on, you know, the new presidents and the new leaders amongst the teens, and to a final night big concert that they have and so on. We are tasked as a company to produce this conference. There are 8 legs to the stool of this project. Everything from the production element to the DMC side to the creative content management and so on. We touch every bit of what happens in this conference, from the moment that teen arrives at the airport and gets picked up until the moment that they leave and head back home. Everything that they touch, we have a part of. I'm going to show you a quick 1.5-minute recap video of their conference in Denver. So that was, that's one of our favorite clients, in the sense that we get to impact youth, and that's important to us as well. So it really sort of kind of fits into a bit of our culture as a company, and for me personally as well, just you know, being able to create an experience that allows the audience, 5,000 teens, to react, and you can engage them in a lot of different levels, from education to religious studies and so on. And we're not necessarily coming up with the content, but we're creating that around, you know, the really the curriculum or the agenda that the client creates. And so you can see in this slide, there's a lot of different things going on, and we have touch points on everything from the goat yoga, you'll see, and if you didn't see that picture yet, it's on the right there. You know, we created a goat yoga room for all the teens to come into and experience that. to the Final Night concert where they had a multitude of big name acts. Galantis and T-Pain performed, for example, and we work with their, their people and their management team and such to sort of execute their needs and so on. So it is a quite an undertaking to do this. I would say, on the entire event team side, we probably had live at the Colorado Convention Center for 5 days. We probably had north of 30 people from our staff and our team outside of the volunteers that we brought in to help with registration and so on. The production team carried the biggest weight of that with probably, north of 15 people behind that big stage you see there, really sort of controlling all that's happening from sound, light, production, special effects, and so on. And we created all that content. So all the videos that you saw on there, even the signs and what the signs said, we had an input on all of that. So it's and the pre-production alone is a lot of work. When we get live to the event, we all know what we need to do and we execute based on that. But there's a lot of work that happens and folks that are behind the scenes that aren't live at the event that are really supporting a lot of this. Any questions on this project by chance?
I have one question coming up. There's a couple more above, but this one just came through. Mark wants to know if you can describe some of the events that this company's produced. I know you just went through this one, but.
Yep. Yeah, I'll give you a quick Cliff Notes version of the different types of events that we've produced. So this is considered an association type meeting. BBYO is an association. So we do a lot of work in the association world, whether it's medical associations where doctors convene and have to have continuing education to ensure that they're board certified. We have a hand in that, as an example. There are corporate clients that produce their annual sales kickoffs, like you saw with that Yahoo picture. Those are clients that we work with. Special events as it relates to, fundraising galas that happen, or city type events where you're working with the mayor or the governor. We have a hand in those, and especially in the state of Colorado, we have a big footprint in that space as well. We've done government and presidential events. We work closely with Barack Obama when, if you recall, in his first term, the DNC was in Denver, and that he was in Mile High Stadium when he gave his acceptance speech, and we were a part of that. And sort of the list goes on, and you may ask yourself, well, how do you get involved in this? Because that's what you really want to know, right? Like, how do you find this business? We like to think that, because we're really good at what we do, people hear about us, but there are ways that you can engage in finding business. Every major city in the country has a convention and visitors bureau that sort of highlights all the conventions coming into the city, and they provide you with that information, and you can research and reach out to them and engage them in conversations on who are they hiring, what are their expectations, what do they want to accomplish, how can you help them do that. That's a big part of what we do in that case. So there's a lot of different strategies, and which is why I say, if you get a chance to work for an event company or a DMC company, even as an intern, that's a great way to learn all those elements. But you'd be surprised. We have done some very high-level weddings. I've done a couple of bar mitzvahs that spend more money than my corporate clients. So you would be surprised at the type of events that we touch and so on. So.
Yeah, and I love how there's such a variety and you guys still find a way to make it individualistic to each one. Looking at all the events that you guys have done, it's amazing. I've got one more question for you before we go on. Itzel wants to know, what's the most challenging part about producing an event?
I will make this very, I guess I'm going to answer you very directly on this. You are producing a live event. So regardless of all the pre-planning that you do, and it's months, sometimes months of pre-planning. BBYO is probably a 6 or 7 month process that we are planning all of this for really 4 days. So imagine all the preparation you do You get on site, everything should go smooth. You have it all prepared. And imagine sitting in that big production room where you see all those screens and the picture in the bottom right there, and you have 5,000 teens in the theater, and everything has to go flawless. You cannot have any hiccups. Part of why I do what I do is the feeling I have knowing that I have control over all of that, because I've anticipated what may go wrong. I've already anticipated my plan B and plan C and plan D. And at the end of the day, that's really part of the reason why clients hire you, because it's a scary thing to produce a live meeting and event. I will tell you, the anxiety level can be quite high. Sometimes it may not be for everybody. It's easy to produce a live event when you have a small stage and one speaker and a band, let's say. Take that for example. Not to discredit those types of meetings, but then you have 5,000 teens, you have a 140-foot screen, you have a multitude of content and video rolls, 40 speakers a day that are coming on and off that stage. You know, each queue has 12, 13 people doing something for each queue. Each queue happens in a minute, minute and a half. You have somebody that's calling all those queues. It can be, it can be nerve-wracking. And so there is a bit of a discipline to harness that nervousness and funnel that out into sort of good, positive energy, knowing we've got the perfect show flow, we got the perfect cue to cue, I've got the right people on my team to execute this. If something goes wrong, I have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, which makes it seamless for my audience who may not realize things can happen. I'm not going to tell you that every event is flawless, and no company or no event producer on the planet will ever tell you that. However, we got a pretty good run rate. And I was mentioning this earlier to Casey. People that do what I do, or people that want to do what I do, I always ask them, you have to figure out what your superpower is. And I know that sounds a bit sort of kind of corny, but I will tell you that my superpower is I see the future. And what that really means that when I'm producing a live event, I will anticipate what may happen throughout their day, let's say in their main ballroom, their main general session, or the moving parts that are happening. And I will put strategy in place to ensure if something breaks, if there's a weak link in the chain, we have a solution that's fairly quick. And so when that does happen, we execute that. I've technically seen the future and I've addressed it. And that's the trick. And if you can harness that and manage that, you will have flawless events and everything will sort of kind of come together the way you spent months on pre-planning. That's a very long-winded answer to your question. But the importance is if you don't have the right team in place and people that you trust or whatever, that sort of nervousness or anxiety level can be sort of expounded more than you feel comfortable with. And so that's why it's important. I think I mentioned earlier, really, build yourself an amazing team. And to do that, you will start off in your career as being part of that team. And you are just one part of a large team, but eventually you sort of kind of work your way up and hopefully you become like me where you're event producer, you're building your team, and really executing amazing events. I hope that answered your question.
Great perspective too on my end. I thought that was great.
Thank you.
We'll save a couple.
Yeah. You want to save them? Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this next event. So this was a conference where it was a secret. It was a skincare company, and they were doing their sales kickoff. So they had roughly 4,000 of their sales folks, their independent sales reps in the audience. And the goal of this conference was really to sort of motivate them to go out there and really succeed in their sales efforts. And so they came to us looking for different options for designs. And these are renders that you see on the left. Those aren't real pictures. Those are concepts that we came up with on what does that main general session look like when we have 3,500 salespeople convene in one location. What's going to happen on that stage? How do we make that impactful? And so we go through the process of the renders and the schematics and different ideas and options, and we eventually produce really an amazing event. In this case, and I want to get to this video, Casey, let me know if we're long on time because I don't want to take too much time, but This is a bit of a long video. It's roughly maybe 3.5, 4 minutes long. I personally won 3 awards for this event, one of which being the ADME Award. It's an international award for best technical production on the show. Really one of my big highlights in my career. The client's theme for this show was revolution. And so if you think about it, you know, how do you make revolution come to life? How do you create that on a stage in front of 3,000 people where they feel like they're part of a revolution? And that was the ask from the client to us. How do you do that? So I engaged my creative team, you know, Adrian Hodder, who works for IMPRINT, you know, was sort of my right hand. We were the yin and yang on this project, and we came up with a really amazing storyboard where in this 3-day conference, we you know, lit the fire of the revolution on day 1. We made everybody feel like they were a revolutionary throughout the entire 3 days, where at the end we sort of kind of were victorious, but we had to go through sort of the ebb and flows of a revolution and winning and losing in the battles and so on. And you're like, Kamal, how do you do that on stage? And this video will show you a lot of that, but we took entertainment and talent and production and special effects and lighting, and we created battles on stage, you know, and where the revolutionaries were winning and then they were losing, and this sort of kind of this emotion was happening. We had people in tears in the audience. And all of these ideas came from us sitting down in a, you know, meeting room and spitballing ideas. And we came up with this great storyboard for a 3-day conference that the client absolutely loved and adored. And this is going back to confidence, creativity, being able to say, this is how we're going to do it, and I know I can produce it. And we were able to do that. I'm going to show you the video. It's one of my favorites, so please allow me if I may. Everything you see here, we had a hand in, even the sign spinners and the word revolution in multiple languages. We created their retail environment where they sold apparel and product. We designed the entire thing. And we're not retail people, but we were able to bring in the right people to do that. We had people from 8 different countries at this conference, and we live streamed it to really the globe.
I love that video.
Thank you. That was, I mean, I will tell you that, you know, the feeling I got after that was done, that we ended that conference, which I can't really describe to you, is the reason why I do this. And it was months of work and preparation to sort of kind of put that entire show together. It was a monumental task for a very important client. We brought in an amazing team to really execute all that. And there was this mixed emotion afterwards, you know, where it was Adrian and I backstage sort of kind of hugging and having a very emotional moment, because it was blood, sweat, and tears into that. But it was also the sadness that it was over. And that's the part where you're like, you know, you're just so sad that it's done. But to, you know, to be able to describe that feeling, I really can't, but it reinforces why, you know, I'm very blessed that I do, you know, that I love doing what I do, and it is my passion. I've embraced it and I've accepted it, and it was not what I went to college for. It is not what I studied, but I sort of stumbled on this industry, and you know, that is why I do what I do, and everything that I've learned throughout the entire process kind of made me a better person, a better human being, and really a better event producer. So it was an amazing event that, you know, pictures of that event still at their corporate headquarters on the wall. The flags are still in their lobby space. You know, that event still has an impact to this day for that client, and that event was 6 years ago. So thank you for letting me share that. So, and I'm going to share with you Mellanox technology. So Mellanox is cloud-based hardware technology company based in Tel Aviv, Israel. And in 2017, the Supercomputing Conference was coming to Denver, Colorado. The Supercomputing Conference is the largest computing conference in the world. It is sort of like the Super Bowl, and all these companies come and they represent themselves and they conduct independent meetings and events and so on. So Mellanox approached us through a referral on how can we produce their one-night event where they're really having about 1,500 of potential customers in the audience, and they wanted to sort of wow them, you know, with their presentation. And so they came up with some ideas that they wanted to have and such, and we came up with 3 conceptual ideas of what their stage set could look like when producing their event. And so you're seeing these samples of these renders that are here, things that we pitched to them. They ended up choosing the one on the far right. As you can see there, I'm going to show you a video of really what this is a fly-through render. So this is not a real ballroom. This is all rendered. This is not the real event. This is simply a video that we sent to them, and keep in mind, they're in Israel. We're in Denver. The event's in Denver. We've never met them. We didn't meet them till they got on site for the event. That we were having to put them into the ballroom and show them what it would look like. And so this is what we created to showcase that. And this allowed us to really sort of say, this is what it looks like when you walk into your ballroom. This is what your CEO is going to see when they're on stage. This is what your screen looks like, how you present your content, you know, and this is the view of your CEO. Please show this to him, you know. And this is the actual ballroom, you know, that with those actual lights and those actual chairs and everything. And so we were able to take all the specs of the ballroom, put it into our software that we use, and really sort of build out this event. We put the client in the ballroom, and they're 10,000 miles away in a different country. And that was part of the reason why we were able to really win this event. I didn't mean to start that. Hold on. There we go. So a quick overview. Israeli client, we had an 8-week turnaround. We created a custom diamond-shaped design. You saw that in the render. We only had 12 hours to set up this show, literally 12 hours. And the reason why is there was an event happening in the ballroom the night before ours as part of supercomputing. They finished their event at midnight. We had to come in at midnight turned this entire room into a meeting that happened really the following day, where we were doing rehearsals starting at 2 p.m. and we were rehearsing through up until 6 when the event started. So we had to be show ready in roughly 12 hours. The entire presentation was all in video. There was no PowerPoints or graphics. Everything you see here was a video that was playing. So we had 92 video cues, 276 video rolls, all for a 45-minute presentation. And we also had to work with Jeff Dunham, who's the talent. And I don't know if you all know who Jeff Dunham is, but he's a great puppeteer. And if you're familiar with like Ahmed the Terrorist and so on, that's his people. And you'll see him here at the end of the video. So I'll show you a quick recap of what we did. And as you're watching this, remember the renders that I showed you and sort of that fly through and what that looked like versus what the actual event looked like. I'm going to skip this one right here real quickly, and I'm going to take it to my last slide. I know we only have about 10 minutes or so left, Casey, so I do want to open it up for questions. That is my contact information below. Feel free to email me. That is my cell phone number. I'm very accessible. And one of my favorite things that I like to say is the saying you read up there, and it comes from a Greek saying, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. If you read that more than once and start to understand really the context of that, it goes right back into don't be afraid to ever spitball some really creative ideas and sow some crazy things on the table, and you'll be surprised what people want to end up producing and so on. And that comes from that confidence. And really, for me, that's how I improved, as I took risks and I was able to sort of kind of push the envelope and really share some crazy ideas and watch customers say, yes, we want to do that. It sounds crazy, but it's perfect, and such. So Casey, I'm going to throw it back to you. If there are any questions that are additional, or if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, fire away.
Hey, Casey, you're muted.
Sorry, my bad. But yeah, we've got a couple of questions in here. I'm not sure if anybody wants to jump in and ask. I can go through a couple. I know Kita wanted to know, how do you get into the virtual event industry? Like internships or work experience are on hold right now. So how can people be learning and getting experience in the meantime?
It's a great question. So two things, I'll answer that in two different ways. One, feel free to reach out to me. I will be happy to share with you some insight, some good websites to go to, some articles to read, and so on. I promise you're not the only one that's waiting for this industry to come back. As a company, so are we. We've had quite a bit of things that have sort of stopped and canceled, and we were reinventing ourselves temporarily, perhaps long term. Not really sure, but MPI, Meeting Professionals International, and I believe it's mpiweb.org. If you go to that website, again, it's mpiweb.org. I believe it's mpiweb.org. That is an organization or association I'm a member of, our company's a member of, and really is for meeting professionals, but also special event professionals. And so you have everything from suppliers to end clients and everything in between, and all the different sort of kind of, legs of the stool, so to speak. But it's a great way to start. They have the largest sort of kind of membership of industry professionals, and they're a global association, and it's a good way to start. And I believe they have programs for students as well. So it's a good thing to reach out to them, engage in a membership program, let them know, hey, I'm a student, I want to get involved. What can I do? It's a great way to start. There are probably 3 or 4 other organizations, and feel free to email me or text me, and I'll be happy to share any of those with you.
We got a couple more questions. Lauren had 2. Her first one was, how did you get started in the industry? And Lauren, you also asked if Kamal has a LinkedIn, and he does. That's actually where I found a good portion of these videos too, and they're all on there and they're amazing. But yeah, she wanted to know how you got started in the industry was her first question.
It's a very, very interesting story, because I graduated from the University of Michigan with a journalism degree, and I thought I was going to be this amazing journalist. And so I remember in college, I was part of my campus newspaper, my campus TV station, my campus radio station. I was the voice of WOLV, Wolverines. And that's what I thought my career path was going to be. And so I moved to Denver, Colorado from Michigan, and I got started at a news affiliate in Denver. And I worked as a part of a few stories that I did, and some of those got some traction. And one of those stories was sort of up for an award, and I was invited to this awards event, and this awards event happened to be in a ballroom, and I go to this special event, I get all dressed up, and I walk in, and there's these big screens and lights and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what is all this? And that was my first sort of kind of real experience into, this is pretty cool. What is this all about, and how do I get involved? And literally, I connected myself with the people that produced that event. And as I was working in news and a couple of other jobs, because I was a starving student and had to pay my loans, I stumbled on this industry organically and naturally. And I made a commitment at some point. I'm going to move away from journalism, but I'm going to keep my writing, my creative, my technical skills that I built and so on. And I was able to then put those to use in a new industry. And that's when all that started. And that was, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago that happened. And sort of the light bulb came on that this is where I belong, really. And not to age myself, but back when I went to college, we didn't have a hospitality program or one that really engaged you in special events. And so that's why it was all a big surprise to me. And, certainly technology wasn't where you had information at your fingertips. And I was blessed to fall into it. It was sort of like just sort of the hand of God or whatever, saying, no, Kamal, you need to be doing this. We're going to throw you over here. That's how it happened. So I'm very lucky.
Good. Steve said, go Big Blue.
Yes. Yes, Steve.
But if anybody else wants, I know we had a couple missed questions in here, but if anybody else wants to unmute and possibly ask them, now would be the time to do it. I'll leave it open for you guys.
And please take out your phones, and you can take a picture of this screenshot right there, which has my contact information and a really funny picture of our entire team who are acting very foolish and stupidly, but that's what we do, and we're okay. We're okay with that. And thank you. I can't thank Casey and your planning team for allowing me to be a part of this. as much as it was, I hope, very encouraging and educational for you. And I really hope I sort of tailor the message around what it is that you wanted to learn and understand. It was just as much a pleasure for me to be able to share all of this knowledge for you. I could talk about this industry and what I do for days, and I wouldn't probably get bored. So I know we're short on time, but please engage me, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just know that Imprint Group is based in Denver, Colorado. When everything opens back up, we have internship programs. If you're interested, please reach out, and let us know, and hopefully we can find opportunity. And we know a lot of industry companies as well that perhaps we can steer you in the right direction. Not only in Colorado, but really around the country. We're pretty well connected. So I hope this was engaging and informative for you. And I really thank you. And Casey and the entire team I've been working with the last couple of days, thank you for letting me do this.
And we thank you so much. It's been such a treat to learn from you in this last hour. There's so many amazing projects, and I can see why you could talk about it for hours. You seem so passionate about it. I love every bit of it. And on behalf of the Senior Experience class, everyone here in hospitality program, we thank you so much for coming, and for everyone that joined as well. Thank you so much. I also wanted to offer up, if anybody from the following two courses, our next two virtual events, I know some of them wanted to jump in and remind people about their webinars next week. I'm not sure if any of them want to jump in right now, but next week we have post-pandemic legality on April 28th on Tuesday from 5 to 6:15, and then hospitality, where do we go from here, from 6:30 to 7:45. So if any of you guys are interested in that, go ahead, feel free to join in. We still have our registration on Eventbrite if you guys want more information. And also, we recorded this whole presentation here, so if you guys want to go back through and look at all this amazing content, it's at your disposal here, and we'll be posting it in the future as well.
Awesome. Good.
All right.
I'm going to leave you with one thing, if I can, Casey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I leave you with a little sort of kind of story about the Greeks. I studied Greek history in college. I like history in general. It's good to know where you come from. You can anticipate where you're going. But if anybody knows about how Greek funerals work, then good for you. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you how that when somebody died, back in the days of the Greeks, and they went to go bury that person, there wasn't necessarily a eulogy or anything. And the conversation during that wasn't negative, it was very positive. And they only asked one question, and then they asked friends and family to answer it. And the one question was, did this person have passion? And so when you move on through your career, always ask yourself, are you passionate about this? Or what part of this industry is very passionate for you, and so on. And the biggest disservice you can do for yourself is not following your passion and exchanging that for something else. Follow that, because as you get through your career, it is one of the best blessings in the world to be able to do what you do, and it's something you're very passionate about. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you, Casey.
That's such great advice. Thank you for all your perspectives, Kamal. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, unmute please, and then say thank you. Thank
Everybody,
you.
round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.